What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 17 of Press YYZ, the greatest Canadian podcast about video games you will ever listen to. Ever. Check us out on Twitter at Press YYZ and give us the most constructive feedback you can offer. It's okay. We can take it. This show is recorded live in front of a digital audience every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, that's Toronto time, at twitch.tv/PressYYZ. This week, we're going to talk about new Paper Mario, Actually, no, we're not going to talk about Doom Eternal news unless Alex wants to. Updates for the Tony Hawk Remaster. And finally, we're going to wrap things up with a nice big roundtable discussion of some of our most hype video game moments, such as midnight launch events. That's what I'm bringing to the table. I'm your host today, AJ Fraser, joined by Mitch George.
Get hype!
Also joined by Alex Ballant.
I can always talk about Doom if you want.
We know.
Then we've got... Hell yeah.
Immediately.
Then we've also... of course. Then we've also got Alexander Kozina.
Hey, did you know that there are about 3 bags worth of blood inside your body?
3 whole bags.
That's from someone who has experience with that.
Okay.
I'm scared now.
And bringing up the rear, we've got Nathan McInerney.
Hey guys, I played something other than Animal Crossing this week.
What?
Don't get me wrong, I played Animal Crossing.
Well, yeah.
But something other than it too.
That means you got to tell us what that is right now, actually. What'd you play?
Oh. So this week, don't get me wrong, my hour count in Animal Crossing is now over 400 hours.
Jesus Christ.
But we won't talk about that this week. This week, I got a review code for a VR title called Gorn, which has been on other VR platforms. It just came to PSVR on Tuesday, and boy, was it fun. This is probably my favorite PSVR game.
Really?
This year.
Oh, this year, okay.
Can you...
Yeah.
I can't recall if I've seen some footage of this. Can you explain the premise?
So you're essentially a gladiator that's thrown into an arena, and you have to destroy the other gladiators. You get all sorts of weaponry, and it starts off with simple things like maces and hammers. Then you get like bow and arrow, two-handed weapons, and each hand operates independently as you would expect. But the locomotion is so interesting in it because essentially, if you guys have played most PSVR games, the locomotion is always like a teleportation system, where this felt more like cross-country skiing. Because you have to hold the move button and it grabs the air and you pull yourself through the air through the arena.
So sort of like, what was that game that was like, it was almost like a skiing locomotion game?
Yeah.
Sprint Vector, kind of like that?
Yeah, but without all the motion sickness.
Yeah, that game messed with my equilibrium quite a bit.
Yeah. And you have to sprint across the arena trying to get to these like grunts as you try and destroy them. They have weapons. You have weapons, and like when you get the axes or the swords, you can chop at people's limbs off. I wasn't great with the arrows, but I really did enjoy using like the axes and the hard blades for just slicing the parts off these gladiators. I should mention too, this is all very cartoony, oversized like top bodies with very skinny legs. So while it's bloody and gory, it's still fun, and everything's up for grabs. Like you can grab, if you chop a limb off somebody, you can grab that limb and then start hitting the other guys with the limbs that you just cut off. So my favorite part, like I remember a battle scene, it was intense. I had 3 guys around me, and I had dismembered one of the gladiators, and I actually was able to pick his body up and use it as a shield, like his limbless body, as I was slashing with my sword in the other hand, trying to fend these guys off. Now, it's hard, and there's a bit of a learning curve because it doesn't explain to you like how damage works. Because when you get hit, you start going red and your eyes start to close is kind of how it works. But there's no way to stop it unless you get a kill. So you immediately have to go in for a kill on somebody else. And then it's kind of like the second wind in Borderlands where it then revives you and you can continue to keep going.
So it's Bloodlust, the game.
Yeah, it's a bloody good time.
That's one way to put it.
That sounds like something that they probably put in the trailer but forgot to do so.
Yes. But no, I had a lot of fun with it. The even better part, it actually registered on my Fitbit as an aerobics workout.
Nice.
Ooh, that's good.
Now, is this just on PSVR or is it on other VR platforms as well?
No, so it's late coming to PSVR.
Okay.
It's been on the other VR platforms. So it was received very well in the other ones. So now that it's on PSVR, I think it's probably one of the better PSVR games. Still waiting for that Iron Man VR code. Sony, come on.
We're so close.
Send it to us.
So
you say.
but yeah, no.
I was just.
Go ahead.
I was gonna ask. So you said that like it's better motion sickness than that other game you mentioned.
Sprint
How does
factor.
it Sprint factor? How does it perform on PlayStation VR? Like, is there any like how does it look? Like, does it run well on the hardware? I'm just generally curious because of how PSVR is kind of underpowered compared to the other ones. I wanted to.
That's putting it
So I'm
nicely.
using a Pro. Yeah, it's also much more inexpensive, but I'm playing on a PS4 Pro, and honestly, I didn't notice any slowdowns or issues. It's optimized really well. It looks really good. Like, obviously, there's a little bit of screen door effect, and that's just from the screen of the PSVR. But really, I was super impressed with it. My biggest disadvantage, and it took me a little bit of getting used to, is to turn. You have to use like the buttons on the Move controller to turn your body around. Right. And because of how frantic the action was, I was turning my body like the first day or two. Like literally turning myself around. My wife's like, "You're facing the window now. You're not facing the TV." And then I have to like recenter myself and figure out where I was. But honestly, this is probably one of the best PSVR games I've picked up this year, and it's really good.
What's the price point?
Everybody should play it.
What's the price point?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. The price point was not live when my review went up.
Oh, okay. Because depending on if the price is right, this is something I might look into. That's okay. While you do that, talking about a bloody good time and some great combat, I dove headfirst into Final Fantasy VII hard mode over this past week.
Hell yeah.
Chasing that platinum.
How's that treating you?
I wish hard mode was available from the beginning. I'm enjoying this playthrough of the game in terms of the way it feels in combat way more than my first playthrough. It's so much better on hard mode.
Do you think you could have felt the same if that was your first playthrough, though?
Yeah, do you think do you think that this comes from just the experience of knowing basically how that entire game functions, that you are now kind of like a master of it, that you're not like learning through the systems?
That's probably part of it, and the other part of it is that all of your materia from your first playthrough, when you go back, you can use it all. So having all of your tools available from the beginning,
it's a new game plus.
It's not quite new game plus. They don't call it that, but it's essentially new game plus. You can go back with everything you already had at the levels you had it leveled up to. It's such a good time. Yeah, it's basically new game plus. Yeah. They just don't call it that because they're Square Enix.
Can I ask some questions?
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No.
How dare you?
I started PSVR. I started Final Fantasy VII Remake 2 nights ago.
Woo.
So I'm really early in. I went into the normal mode because I played the demo classic mode, and I used a ton of potions, and I found myself struggling to make it through and not die. Is there something I'm missing, or some tip of combat that you can give me to help get through the combat, or is there something that you wish you had known when you started playing the first time?
Countering is very important. So when you go into Punisher mode with Cloud and hold guard, any physical attack towards you, you will counter it, which is super handy for increasing pressure on enemies and eventually staggering them. You do have to be careful if an enemy is going to start using magic attacks or anything like that to evade that. But honestly, Punisher mode, as much as you can, counter everything. You do later on in the game unlock a second counter skill, which is super, super OP, especially on the second playthrough on hard mode. So yeah, I think understanding what attacks are coming at you and being able to either counter that or get out of the way, super important.
I didn't learn that until the very end of the game.
That's unfortunate.
I want to say, I was motivated to jump right into hard mode right away when I beat the game, and I quickly was discouraged because I realized that I only had bought one revive materia on my previous playthrough. Now, here's the thing, though. I can theoretically just play through another chapter on normal mode, get like a revive materia at some point during that, complete that chapter, and then jump into hard mode, right?
Yes. So what I would actually recommend
So, like, what I was going to ask is... sorry, just to quickly get to the end of my point.
Yeah.
Like, what chapter would you recommend that I go into so that I can kind of quickly get my materia and get out?
I think there are 2 chapters you need to jump into, honestly. I would say before starting hard mode, you probably finish with your characters around, like, 37, 36 levels. like level
Yeah.
36, 37, something like that. I would honestly recommend grinding them to max level. You get a trophy for getting one character to level 50, but you might as well get them all to level 50. So I would go back and replay the chapter with the Colosseum to make sure that you can get Aerith leveled up through the Colosseum challenges. And then I think it was one of the later chapters in the game. When you go back and play it on chapter select, you can get access to the VR simulator, like the combat simulator, not the VR missions for the assists. And you can grind out Cloud. Actually, no, forget what I said about the Colosseum. I think that later chapter you actually have access to all 4 characters, so you can grind them all through those challenges. And there are a few challenges you can do there that are linked to great materia unlocks as well as some trophies. So it's worth grinding through those missions and getting to level 50 before you restart on hard mode. Or at least that's what I did, just to try to be as completionary as I could before getting to my hard mode playthrough.
All right, sounds good.
AJ, to answer your question, it's been
Yep.
a bit of a week. I think I have 2 chapters left.
Okay.
I played but it's funny though, because my first playthrough was about 40 hours. This playthrough I'm doing minimalist, so skipping all the side missions, and I think right now I've put about 17 hours into it. So those side missions do add a lot of time to your game clock. But I'm absolutely loving going back. I cannot wait to finish this off, get this platinum. Having never played a Final Fantasy game before this, I still think this is one of my favorite games of all time. It's so special.
It's sort of weird to me because like I can't say that I've ever played a game where I've immediately had the desire to go back and play through the whole thing again on a different difficulty or whatnot.
Right.
Like, for example, let's say something like Halo or whatever, where, you know, for me personally, what I like to do, like everybody says, oh, you should start it on heroic difficulty. I started on normal because I want to enjoy my time playing the story, and I want to have that hero fantasy.
Sure.
But then, you know, if I go back to the story at all, it'll be with friends, and doing like a legendary playthrough that way, co-op or whatever. Otherwise, you know, something like that, I'd be going into multiplayer. But like back-to-back single-player playthroughs of a game is just so foreign to me. It's not something that I've really had that draw to do. I've been tempted with things like The Witcher, but like that didn't last long. I'd get partway through and then be like, okay, I think I've burnt out.
So I didn't go back right away. There was a couple weeks there where I wasn't really playing much, to be honest. I wasn't sure what it was. I was trying to find something to play next. And eventually I just circled back to, okay, it's been like a week and a half, and all I can think about is finishing Final Fantasy on hard mode. So it got its hooks in me in a way most games don't, and I had to go back.
Cozy, what have you been playing?
The 2 big games I've been playing over the past week have been God of War 2018 and Apex Legends. In the case of the former, people that know me will know that I am a pretty big fan of God of War. The first God of War on the PlayStation 2 was one of the first games I ever played with the PlayStation 2 after I received one secondhand from one of my cousins. And, you know, while I can never claim that I absolutely love the character of Kratos, I can definitely say that I loved the God of War saga and, you know, thoroughly enjoyed playing through all of its various sequels across all the various devices that they were on. And in theory, God of War 2018 should have been a, like, instant play, instant like on my part. Yet when I played it for the first time around, I think it was like August or September of last year, I couldn't really get into it. And I think, honestly, this is going to sound super weird, but I think that the biggest thing that turned me off from it was the UI. The UI of the game in this weird kind of way reminded me of the UI in like a mid-tier Ubisoft open world game. Like, it reminded me of one of those sorts of, you know, climb to the top of the tower and scan the area around you and go and mine for resources and level up a little bit. That kind of a game. And it kind of discouraged me. I'm like, it feels like this series sold out and became like a mid-tier open world action game. Now that I've actually gotten back into it and I'm playing it more extensively, I really appreciate it for what it actually is, which is a very superbly crafted action game with a really, I'd say, intriguing story about a boy and a man. I still have mixed feelings about the UI. I wish that they had tried to emulate the look and feel of the UI from the older God of War games a little bit more, but that's obviously not going to stop me at this point.
Yeah, the UI for a game that is so incredibly polished and so well made, there are some really weird things like that, like just some like really little things that I feel like don't detract from the overall experience but do stand out. I think the fast travel is another one of those things that's just like it feels super convoluted of like and trying to have like the in-game explanation of why it's happening. I just felt it was very unnecessary. And I think the UI also is in that. It's like it's trying to feel more thematic to the rest of the game, where I just felt like that's not necessary. Just give me clean UI. That's one of the biggest things about this entire generation that I feel like has been a problem, is just developers are getting so like they're getting so artsy with the UI that I just feel like it's what's the point? Like just give me something that's functional and not like just looking good. If it detracts from the functionality. Oh, Cozy's gone.
Yeah, we were talking about that in Twitch as well. Apparently the Twitch stream was still going and all of us were frozen for them, but for us we couldn't see Cozy worth a damn, and this means nothing to our audio listeners, and I don't know why I got into this. So
here's what you do for the audio podcast. You cut this out and put it at the end, but you seamlessly insert it in together when we get back on Twitch.
I don't know if I should keep going or not.
See, this is what happens when you let me host. Yeah, everything catches fire.
No, this is what happens when Greg Miller gets what he wants and the Snyder Cut becomes a thing.
I don't understand. How do you make a movie more perfect?
Yeah.
You make it 4 hours long.
Wait, Justice League was perfect to
Yes.
you? Justice League was like...
I enjoyed
It's a phenomenal film.
my time watching Justice League. For like what it was, the only criticism that I have of it, the biggest criticism I have of it is they were just chasing the Avengers, and they shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, it felt so like tone deaf, where it's like half of it felt like Zack Snyder, half of it felt like Joss Whedon, and it just put in a blender and tasted or like and was just like horribly combined together. Like,
okay, but I don't blame either filmmaker for the way that movie turned out. This is on the WB executives wanting to get their bonuses by getting Justice League out the goddamn door.
Of course not. And like
those people should be ashamed. Give Zack Snyder the time he needs. It's going to be a $20 million budget to fix this movie. And it's hopefully going to be great, and hopefully we'll have a way to watch it legally in Canada.
My biggest thing about it is just I'm glad that at least now, like Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, and Justice League will all feel like a cohesive unit, and not like there's this one sort of redheaded stepchild that's just like a problem.
Strawberry Blonde, thank you.
Yeah, I was looking directly at you when I was saying that too.
Cozy's in the... We've Cozy Cam in the Twitch chat there.
Just
in the
Cozy?
Twitch stream.
He is... I think he's trying to talk to us through Twitch. Because he's talking... well, actually, no. He's talking to the Twitch chat, I guess.
At this point, I want to keep all of this in.
Yeah, no, this has to be in there.
All right, so previously, if you recall, just before everything shit the bed, I was talking about how... previously on Press
out
YYZ.
The swear words.
I was talking about how, I had attempted God of War 2018 previously in September of 2019. It hadn't really appealed to me too much at the time because I found the UI a little bit off-putting and a little bit Me Too-ish. But once I reattempted it just last week, and I've been playing it since, I've really been enjoying it.
I'm glad to hear that, because that's one of my favorite games of this generation. And when you initially said you weren't super down on it, I was kind of disappointed. But I'm glad you're getting back to it.
Yeah, I know you, Alex Ballant, were saying something just before we got cut off with regards to the UI. I don't know if you still have that thought in your head or if it's escaped you.
I basically said it all. It was more basically just that for as a game as polished as God of War is, I feel like the UI is just it's a little too like trying to be connected to all of the lore of the game, and like it's trying to be thematic with that, where in a way it becomes over encumbersome and makes it less usable in my opinion. And I just kind of wish that more games would focus on functional UI over flashy.
Do you have I know we talked a bit about Ghost of Tsushima this past week when we did our first live reacts on twitch.tv/PressYYZ, But do you have any concerns that the UI that they've designed in that game, where it is, just it is an element of the game and not its own, standalone UI elements? Do you feel like that's going to take a bit away from the experience for you, similarly to what you felt with God of War?
See, that's the thing, is I love what they're doing in Ghost of Tsushima. When I saw that, I'm like, that is awesome.
But how is that different from God of War? It's
because no matter what, the UI still takes you out of it no matter what, because you're pausing the game and it's bringing up menus and stuff, where this is integrating it in the game in a more natural way, where it's not just like a flashing icon on the screen. I feel like if you're going to interrupt the game and have it be menu based anyway, make it functional. But if you are going to try something, I don't know, like I feel like I feel like what I said makes sense, of just like there's a very fine line that I think Ghost of Tsushima is walking. It's going to depend on what they do with their menu system. I think will kind of be the tipping point of whether or not I like it. But I love the way that they're doing the markers and the way that they're doing all of the world stuff, because it is supernatural.
I do also want to add that the way that the UI looks in Ghost of Tsushima is very reminiscent of the way that the UI looked in Sucker Punch's previous titles, like Infamous. So it is kind of like, well, you already kind of know what you're in for. Whereas with God of War, it was an aberration from what I previously knew of Santa Monica's games.
Yeah, so that's understandable. I know we're deviating a bit, but because I didn't get a chance. I mean, talk about technical issues. I had some crazy technical issues trying to get onto our Ghost of Tsushima stream. And didn't really get to share my thoughts on that, but it did feel a bit like, as someone who went back to the remaster of Shadow of the Colossus earlier this year, I got a lot of Shadow of the Colossus vibes from that game in terms of the wayfinding and things like that. It just seems so and it seems better integrated into Ghost of Tsushima than it does into Shadow of the Colossus. So I'm very much looking forward to picking up that game.
What else have you been playing? Definitely. What else have you been playing, Cozy?
Oh yeah, that's right. Previously I said that I was playing God of War 2018 and Apex Legends Season 5, more specifically. Recently, as you all know, they updated to Season 5, and that means a return to King's Canyon, which was the map back when Apex Legends first launched last year, albeit now transformed and ravaged by some mysterious events. And the introduction of a bunch of new little features and modes, and a new legend, Loba, who I have fallen in love with in more ways than one. Previously, my main in Apex Legends used to be Octane, which was the legend that had the ability to run very fast and put down jump pads at a moment's notice. Loba has the abilities to basically teleport by tossing a ring in front of her, and basically bring up a shop called the Black Market that allows her to access any area, any weapon or item that is sort of within a certain radius of where the shop is put down. So like, instead of needing to travel into a potentially dangerous dungeon or tower or whatnot, you can just sort of hide away. You can put down the Black Market and kind of pick whatever you choose. Mind you, you're limited to just 2 items / weapons, but still very handy. I am looking forward to many more matches with her.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No.
I was just going to say, the lore behind this legend, I really like it, because there were a lot of rumors and speculations when the trailer for the last legend came out. Remind me of the name, Cozy, because I don't remember any of this. Revenant. When that dropped, and the whole backstory was he'd killed this family, and like the daughter had survived. The rumor was the daughter was going to end up as a legend, and this new legend is that character, which is very cool in terms of the way they're building the lore into this world. I really like everything that Respawn is doing from a storytelling perspective.
Yeah, I will say, though, it's funny you bring up story. One of the updates that was brought along with Season 5 was a mode in the game called Quest Mode. I don't know if it's exactly called that, but it is under a subheading called Quest in the main menu. And basically, it is a kind of light little story mode in which the Apex Legends all team up to solve a mystery within King's Canyon. And the first leg of this story mode is basically told via dialogue amongst all of the legends, and it's pretty weak in terms of production values. Literally, it's just a bunch of lines of dialogue next to like pictures of each of the legends' heads. There's no like background art. There's very little in the way of sound effects. Playing through it, I was sort of reminded of the Persona 4 Arena games and how those games sort of go a long way with a little bit of voice acting and a little bit of animated graphics. And, I'm hoping that the new studio that they recently opened up to work on Apex Legends content in Vancouver will result in much more high-fidelity story content in the future.
So you said that this is the Legends trying to solve a mystery. Do you think that they do a better or worse job of presenting stories around mysteries in this compared to the new Scooby-Doo movie that just released on demand that is getting panned by critics across the board?
I thought you were going to segue into Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Not in the
like
slightest.
Batman
Scooby-Doo
being
or
better
Riot?
about solving mysteries or something like that. And also, I have not watched the Scooby-Doo movie, and I don't think I have any intention to do so.
Those damn kids. I would have gotten away with it.
By the way, just before we continue on to the next topic of discussion, I'm on the status.discord.com website, and apparently all systems are operational.
Of course
do we
they are.
want to switch back, or do we want to stay as we are?
It's up to you.
I may be hosting the show, but you're the one pressing the ones and twos. Whatever makes sense for you, whatever you would prefer.
Alex, more edits. Yay!
I have no opinion. We're already derailed. Whatever you guys want to do.
I mean, personally, I would actually prefer it if we were to go back to Discord.
Let's go back to Discord.
Everyone be
It'll be
quiet during the transition. Alex looks so happy right now.
I'm great. I've got like 3. I'm now actually taking timestamps.
Ooh.
So
We're
maybe
an
I can
hour into
make
the
things
show and we
easier.
haven't gotten out of what we're doing. When we edit it down, it'll be like 12 minutes.
This podcast is going down faster than my will to live, and let me tell you, that's pretty fast.
Hey, you got a new chair. You're happy.
Yeah, it's nice. Yo, okay, I didn't mention this. I'm gonna just do it now because literally, what else are we to talk about? It's
Nothing.
got a second. It's got a second pillow that has a USB cord in it that actually vibrates. It's so weird.
A vibrating USB cord?
Like it's got a.
He has a vibrating pillow in his chair.
Oh,
Yeah, but
okay.
but like it's connected via USB. I explained that weird, but either way,
Yeah.
it's over
You
there.
were saying-
it's over there because
Do you sit on
You
the
were
chair
saying it like,
backwards?
oh, it's got a USB cord where I can charge my phone. But no, it's a USB cord so I can get myself off while I'm sitting in my chair.
I mean, whatever.
You wrap the cord around yourself and it vibrates and just feels good.
Your chair came
I'm
with a
It's over there
vibrator.
because it feels. It's over there because I hate it. It feels so weird.
I think that after messing with my camera first in OBS, then in Google Hangouts, and now here, I think it's just permanently fucked.
We broke all the
You guys can
camera.
continue the episode, and I'll figure out how to fix it.
That's okay.
Okay.
We'll struggle through this one together.
Yeah.
Okay, what I've been playing.
Yeah.
Go on.
Is more Halo 2. I've basically been only playing Halo 2. I love it. Even Halo 2 Anniversary, which is not that great because it's just a modified Halo 4. But
figure?
yeah, it's the Halo 4 engine with the
The-
art style of Halo 4, but just
the-
kind of modified.
The graphical engine. It's made more modern in that regard.
It's
but
literally the Halo 2 engine, or not the Halo 2, the Halo 4 engine modified to try to feel like Halo 2, but it's not quite there. It's close, but it's still like there's some really weird. There's some weird stuff with it.
So having played it in the Master Chief Collection, like the map layout for all the levels and everything is the exact same.
And there's one that's different. It's
Which one?
It's the one with it's the Forerunner one where it's got the big circle in the middle and like it's got the Banshee on. I don't remember what it's called in either version, but it's like it's got like the triangle in the center that's like a big circle. It's reversed, like it's mirrored. It's
Okay.
really weird and I don't like it. It's also just weird having an assault rifle in Halo 2.
Yeah,
It's just
okay.
it's just weird. There's mongoose in
I-
Halo 2, but they
that-
have weapons on them as well.
See, when I first played Master Chief Collection, that is something I really appreciated, was when they brought it over to Halo 2 Anniversary, like especially in the multiplayer, you got all these new weapons. You're playing basically Halo 2, but with new weapons, and that's something
does-
I really appreciated.
So like my biggest problem with it, besides like I don't particularly like the art style in a lot of it. I think it looks kind of ugly. The maps that get it right, like Zanzibar, looks flawless, looks phenomenal. Zanzibar looks great, but most of the maps look ugly, and I just like, I feel like if they do what they did with Zanzibar for Halo Infinite and just update the Halo style like that, that would be perfect for Infinite. But the part of Halo 2 Anniversary that they didn't compromise on is the campaign. It looks incredible. This is my first time really seeing Halo 2 Anniversary, because I know it's been out since 2014, but I'd never had an Xbox One, so I never got to play it. Yeah. It looks so good. It looks like everything that Bungie wanted to do with Halo 2, but just like completely, like, it's the complete vision. And the blur cutscenes are just immaculate. They're so beautiful.
They're so good.
Gravemind is terrifying. I love it. Everything about Halo 2 campaign is awesome. Even the updated music, which I still like the original more, but I think the updated music is still pretty cool. And just the switching back and forth and like having like the original sound effects and the original music and then switching to the updated, it's all super cool. I just wish the game was not broken on PC. There's a lot of bugs in it that are gonna get hot fixes, I hope, soon, but
oh dear.
This is now 3 for 3 on the Halo games kind of being a little broken at launch on PC. So they're basically just they're doing a not as bad version of the Xbox One of the Halo games, but on PC. Like, it's not completely broken. Like, I can play it. I've put like 15 hours into Halo 2 Anniversary so far, but like, it's just, I wish, just release them when they're ready. Is what I would say.
Do you see this as a troubling trend when it comes to Microsoft games being released on PC and Xbox? Because we saw the same thing with Gears Tactics, where it released on PC with a ton of weird, wonky bugs and issues, and it seems like they're holding on to the console release until they can fix a bunch of that stuff.
So I don't know if it's I don't know, because in this instance, this is a small team at 343 just doing the PC versions, but it's weird because when they're bringing the PC stuff over, they're breaking the console versions of MCC. So I don't know what the fuck is happening. Like, Halo is, all of the Halo games, or at least all of the Bungie Halo games, are held together by duct tape and dreams, and they're starting to fall apart a little bit. But I'm not complaining because I at least get to play the game.
We've talked a lot about Halo the last couple of weeks. You know what we haven't talked about? Patriot Act on Netflix. It's back. It's as good as that. Do you guys not know what Patriot Act is?
I've heard
no idea. I don't know
what's
what
his
it is.
name.
Oh man, you're in for a
forget his name.
treat. This is from former Daily Show correspondent Hassan Minhaj.
Yes.
He basically hosts a talk show where topical. They have their thing they talk about every week. Think of it like John Oliver's show, but with video screens and really dope transitions and animations. It's phenomenal. I would highly recommend going back. I think it was season 4-ish. He did a really good episode on Video Game Crunch. Everyone should go check out the episode of Patriot Act where they discuss Video Game Crunch and crunch culture. But they came back still having to be in quarantine, so it's just him on a green screen, but the production value is still there. It's a phenomenal show. Everyone should give it a watch. It's on Netflix. Everyone has Netflix. Just go watch this goddamn show. It's so good. This week's episode was about how people are going to pay their rent while getting through the coronavirus pandemic. So it's super topical, and it's a great watch. Tons of really good statistics. Everyone go check out Patriot Act.
Where did he film the episode from?
His apartment in New York City.
Okay. I don't know if he did something like, hey, I went to a green screen studio and it's just myself filming it or whatever.
The other thing too, which is interesting, is his other so he executive produces the show. His other executive producers had to actually quarantine with Hassan and his family because he's helping to get the show done. So he's having to isolate himself with Hassan Minhaj to be able to get the show produced. I will be right back. My fiance's in the chat and saying to open the apartment door.
Oh, good. Have fun with that. Real quick before we move on to our news dump, I kind of fell back into a fairly old game myself called DayZ. It stems from like an old Arma 2 or Arma 2 or Arma 3 mod.
It was Arma 2.
Arma
2 Operation Arrowhead.
Yeah, just an old Arma mod. Anyway, it came to Game Pass recently. Now, I had played, it's a weird guilty pleasure for me because I had played it on I've got it on PC, and I do somewhat enjoy it there on PC, but my laptop can't exactly run it very well these days. But it runs.
How does it run? Yeah, how does it run on the Xbox?
It runs just fine on the Xbox, which is really weird. The hardest thing to get used to is the controller aspect of it, but by the sounds of it, you can plug a mouse and keyboard into it. So I've got a Logitech mouse and Logitech keyboard with they're wireless. So all it takes is that tiny little dongle, and that'll plug right into anything, and it'll connect both the keyboard and the mouse. So I'm probably gonna take a look at that and see what I can do with that. But yeah, no, it works surprisingly well, and it's such a weird guilty pleasure for me, because it was the thing before something like a battle royale, like the thing that inspired the battle royale genre, which was to take DayZ or even what was that? There was that really popular one,
H1Z1.
H1Z1, which was very similar. They took that concept and kind of condensed it all into like a 30 to 45 minute match.
Yeah, let's keep just the PvP.
Let's just keep that, right? But yeah, I've got, like I said, I've got this weird guilty pleasure for that sort of survival game, like also like Rust, games like Rust. Like I don't know what it is, but I always find myself gravitating towards that eventually. Like I'll fall out of it and then I'll fall back into it. But yeah, that's really all I've been doing the past week since it came to Game Pass, and it works surprisingly well. It's on Xbox One. It's really good, and I've got a launch Xbox One. So
oh wow, okay, so that's really telling.
Yeah, it works really well.
Last thing I'll say is when he brought that game up, I initially thought you were playing it on PC, because it took that game an incredible amount of time to arrive on consoles. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a little unfortunate that it took that amount of time, because in the amount of time it took to come on consoles, Fortnite and the whole Battle Royale craze completely took off. And I'd be curious to see what Earth 2 looks like, where this game came to consoles sooner, and if it had been able to make more of a dent as a consequence of not having to compete with all these bigger, better iterations of its formula.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the PC that I had built years ago and then later fried, that's what I used to play it on, and it ran beautifully on that thing. But yeah, like I mean the controller is cumbersome and it's not properly optimized. It's an Arma game, like, so if you envision it this way, you have take Call of Duty as like the most easy, approachable military shooter out there, right? You take a step back from that and let's add some little more realistic design to it, and you'll get Battlefield. And then if you extract from that and try and make it as quote unquote realistic as possible in terms of the actions you have to take to do things, then you get to something like Arma, which is what spawned off onto this. And translating that to a controller is kind of cumbersome when you have to be so actively paying attention to the world around you. So that's just kind of what I've been up to this week. So if everybody else is done talking, Mitch, you're done. Cozy, you're done.
Yeah,
man.
How about we get into the news? Finally, the news. So once again, our connoisseur of news, Mr. Mitch George, put together this list for us with the help of Monarchy in the chat.
Thank you very much.
Shout out to Monarchy.
Always.
I will not forget you, Monarchy. You are fantastic. Why don't you go ahead and take the lead on this?
You got it.
And yeah, let's see how quickly we can get through it.
It's going to be a quick one. This is rapid fire news, baby.
Ready, set, go. News drop.
So first off, we've got
Hell
Paper
yeah.
Mario and the Origami King arriving on Nintendo Switch July 17th, 2020. This being pulled from IGN's Adam Bankhurst. And yeah, we got a shadow drop of a new Paper Mario announcement on Twitter this past week. Mm-hmm. What do we think?
It looks good. I think it looks super good. I like Creepy Peach.
Yeah, I mean, this is not a new opinion, but I'm very cautiously optimistic. The previous two Paper Mario games were not so great, and while the battle system is confirmed to not be the way it was in the first three Paper Mario games, that doesn't mean that it's not going to be entertaining and or deep in its own right, and so I'm hoping that it turns out to be that.
Yeah, for me, it's going to be difficult because it launches the same day as Ghost of Tsushima, so I may skip it for that reason alone. It's going to really have to wow me when it comes to reviews to get me to pick it up, at least at launch. I'm sure it's something I will get to eventually, but at launch, if it's not Ghost of Tsushima quality, then it's probably a pass.
I want to see more
For me, at least.
I want to see more from the battle system. I actually was a fan of Super Paper Mario, and I wouldn't have minded seeing them going that route, but I did enjoy the Thousand Year Door. But I really just want either more Super Paper Mario or more turn-based. And from what I saw, I wasn't super impressed by it, but they did hardly showed anything, so I need to see more.
Yeah. By the way, just a heads up, you are slowly transforming into a cyborg as we speak.
You went full
like dial up.
I was gonna say you went full sound wave on that last little bit.
Oh no!
You still are a little bit sound wave, but it's not too bad.
What I will say is that this was actually rumored earlier this year or late last year that a new traditional Paper Mario game was coming, and that rumor came alongside of another rumor, which is a 2D Metroid game coming to the Switch this year. Do you think that's something that we may see? Does this being announced add more credence to that rumor?
You know, I know some people disagree with me on this, but I'm actually kind of hoping that the new Metroid game that we get is an actual new Metroid game and not a remake of a previous game. I feel like at some point you got to push forward and stop looking back.
Just give me a sequel to Metroid Fusion and I'll be a happy camper. Speaking of which,
Metroid Fusion was great.
Speaking of Nintendo games coming at some point this year, Nintendo warns of potential software delays due to remote working. This coming from GameIndustry.biz from Matthew Handrahan. And Nintendo is cautiously warning its investors that games may be delayed due to a transition from office work to remote working. This is something that is culturally significant in Japan because traditionally working from home is not the norm. It is not really a cultural thing. It is not. Yeah, they are very much about face-to-face meetings and all of that. So
they have a very, very different work culture over there.
Yes.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and call it toxic work environment.
Agreed.
Culture there, where they overwork a lot of their employees. This isn't like a gross generalization. This is, widely known. There are some cultural issues. Not that I can necessarily speak to another culture, but having been there and witnessed some of it myself, it's definitely something that I can see them having an issue wrapping their heads around, and it's something new for them for sure.
Yeah, and I feel like sorry, I was just handed a package of strawberries to open on stream. I don't know why, but
I was concerned that things were going to go to hell again.
It does seem like the way that Nintendo is approaching their announcements for 2020, that knowing that a lot of their planned releases may end up getting delayed due to the shift in work culture. So it kind of makes sense. Something else that we're going to miss from Nintendo this year is Smash Ultimate at EVO. It's been cut from their online program schedule, likely due to online performance issues. This being written up by IGN's Jordan Alleman.
Nintendo doesn't know how to do online, so it makes sense.
We haven't talked about Nintendo having bad online before, have we? It's not something that's ever come up.
It definitely
Speaking of bad online, what was that?
It definitely for the audio listeners, his Discord mic just sounded like a robot. It definitely came up as we discussed having the kind of funny socially distant Smash Brothers tournament. I don't think I got that right, but it's fine because it was
Close enough.
it was an absolute crapshoot of getting those matches put together with like 30 to 40 people. I can't even imagine trying to organize an event like Evo and getting people in the right lobby at the right time to get matches done. It would have been a nightmare from a planning perspective and from hoping that Nintendo's infrastructure actually holds up.
Yeah, and there's a lot of like how can you tell that somebody is clearly better than someone else when the latency will probably be a big issue, and it just doesn't seem like it would make sense in this retrospect, especially with something like Evo that is supposed to be about finding the best player.
Does Nintendo learn anything from this?
No, not
Probably
at all.
not.
Because they make all the money, so they don't need to change.
Prove me wrong, Nintendo. You've learned nothing. Prove me wrong.
Anecdotally, I can't remember where I saw it, but there was some sort of controversy on Twitter of a Smash Brothers competitor getting banned from a competition because they were trying to contest that they actually won the match, and then they asked for proof, and like the organizers asked for proof of this winner, and they sent a screenshot saying they finished in first and the other person finished in second. The problem was the screenshot had a CPU player playing the second player. So they literally just played a match locally and uploaded that screenshot and instantly got banned from all future tournaments.
Wow.
How could you think that would work?
It didn't. And thank God it didn't. And
Yeah.
speaking of not working, I'm going to totally segue into something that is going to work. And that's Tony Hawk. Nathan, this is our Tony Hawk rundown. So Tony Hawk. The full soundtrack has been announced for Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 Remaster. It looks like we're going to get every song from the original title minus there's 5 songs from the original 2 games that are going to be missing. Every other song they were able to relicense.
Are those 5 songs integral to the identity of Tony Hawk, or is it just like, oh, it's like it'll suck that they're gone, but it's not that big a deal? Like, what are the importance of these songs?
So the 5 songs are Psycho Vision by Suicidal Tendencies, Committed by Unsane, Bring the Noise by Anthrax and Chuck D, B-Boy Document 99 by The High and Mighty featuring Yasin Bey and Mad Skills, and Out With the Old by Alley Life featuring Black Planet. I know none of these songs.
I think
Okay.
I would have to hear like the first 10 seconds of each of those to know if it was like integral, because in the especially in a Tony Hawk game, in the first 10 seconds of a song, if that's gonna be a song that sticks around.
Yeah, I'm sure there are people that are going to have some fond memory of some of these titles or some of these songs, but ultimately for me, like my defining Tony Hawk experiences were a little later. Like I played 1, 2, 3, and 4, but for me it was really like the underground games that I got real into. So for me it wasn't as much about the soundtrack, but I know there were a lot of fans of the originals that are going to be missing these songs.
It's the best they can do
sure.
in these situations, so it is what it is. Missing Bring the Noise, like that's the only one. Have I broken
Yeah.
AJ?
Your audio has.
What a day.
We're just rolling along here. So to get into our next story regarding Tony Hawk, Vicarious Visions has said that the remaster won't have microtransactions at launch. Again, being written up by IGN's Jordan Alleman. And Vicarious Visions has spoken out saying everything you see at launch is going to be unlocked with gameplay. They will not have any monetization at launch. That doesn't necessarily mean there won't be, because we have seen instances of Vicarious Visions adding Activision adding monetization to these remasters after they've come out. Hopefully that's not the case, but we're gonna have to wait and see.
Yeah,
it's going to be a full CTR situation.
Yeah,
I really hope not.
I was gonna say one of you guys brought up Crash Team Racing and that whole fiasco. I have zero faith in Activision to
I have a theory.
not do that.
Shoot.
What
for
if
it.
this is a Tony Hawk 3 expansion?
See, that would be cool. I would like that. If they add like actual meaningful content and it's not just microtransactions for the sake of microtransactions, then like that would be
like here's
I would
the
be
levels
perfectly fine
from
with
Tony
that.
Hawk 3
but
for like
more than likely
$20 or something.
That'd be
Yeah.
fine. But if it's like
more than likely it probably won't be.
new
Yeah.
avatars, new decks, like things like that, if you're gonna charge me like $1.99 or 50 hours of in-game gameplay to unlock some premium currency, just
Spider-Man.
fuck off. Speaking of fucking off, Anthem is being worked on by a 30-person incubation team. BioWare says a small team gives us the agility a larger team cannot afford. My question for y'all is, does this game come back in any meaningful way?
in like 4 years when no one gives a shit.
It'll be
Like-
Anthem Reloaded.
Yeah, like maybe it'll get a relaunch, but by the time that they actually get it finished with this small a team, that it's
fucked.
no one's gonna give a shit.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
more that or less than they already did about Anthem.
Yeah, I was gonna say I give like negative shits about this at this point. So
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not incredibly interested in Anthem either, but when the game comes back, I've decided that I'm probably going to give it a shot and see how it looks. Weirdly, over the past 12 months, I've dipped my toe into all of the major games as a service experiences. I played Rainbow Six Siege, I played a bit of Destiny, I played The Division, and so I feel like I kind of need to play Anthem just so I can say, hey, I checked that one off the box as well.
You don't need to do anything you don't want to do, and I don't need to talk about the news anymore. So with that, I think
at the very least, I do want to say I can probably get a very cheap copy of Anthem right now, and presumably I'll be able to play the new, like, revised version of the game at no extra cost. So,
yeah, that's fair. I mean, you could totally have the experience that I had with Mass Effect 3, which was like completely divorced from any of the controversy when should that game get a successful, quote unquote successful relaunch, that could happen. Who knows?
Who knows
All right.
indeed. And with that, I think we can wrap up what I will say is the fastest news segment we've ever done on this show.
I'm into it. I like it. I like these news quickies.
Who doesn't enjoy nice quickies?
You like
know
my
what I
news
mean.
quickies?
I love Mitch's quickies.
Everyone loves my quickies.
The new segment starting next week. Mitch's quickies.
God, no. We're not calling anything that ever.
Oh, just you wait. It's
going
gonna
in the
happen. So we don't appear to have any new deals this week, unless anybody can think of anything. I brought up earlier, DayZ is on Game Pass.
Anyone listening
It's-
live, go get GTA 5 for free on the Epic Game Store. If you're listening after the fact, I'm
Yes.
sorry, but a new game is free on the
Do
Epic
that.
Game Store. Go get that.
Yeah. Check it every week.
It's
Question.
free. Just do it. Shut up. Just do it.
GTA
I
5
haven't
broke
put
the
a
internet.
I haven't put a single dollar into Epic, and I have like 30 games on it. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Should
But,
I get
yeah, go for it.
WWE 2K20 for $23 on the PSN? The deluxe $120 version.
How many dollars, Mr. Robot?
23.
$23.
That still sounds like too
22
much.
more
For
than you should have
everything.
paid. I stand by what I said. That game is a broken trash fire, and I don't know why
Maybe
you
it's
would
like
give it money.
$20
No.
more than you probably should have paid.
No.
You get at least all the DLC. It's like let's give it a little
DLC
bit
in a
of
broken game is still a broken game.
Yeah, I know, but it's still okay. Fine. I'm not even gonna. There's no point arguing this.
And with that, I believe it's time for us to start our topic
Yay.
of the show.
Woo!
Tonight, we are going to do a bit of a round table on what I originally pitched as midnight launches and our experience with those. But we wanted to kind of broaden the perspective on this. And, if you're watching live at twitch.tv/Press YYZ, by all means, jump in the chat with your own midnight launch moments. But also, please bring to the table the moments where you got the most hype, the most psyched for a game
launch hype
ever.
moments, yeah.
Like launch hype specifically. And sort of to start things off, just to kind of like set the tone, set the pace. Last week I briefly mentioned that I participated in some midnight launch events regarding the Halo series. I went to a couple other launches, but the Halo ones really stand out for me. Not that they were anything special, because I literally just went to my local EB Games and picked up the game at midnight. But there was it's kind of hard to quantify. Like I was so uniquely hyped for this game that when I heard that they were going to open up right at midnight. Now keep in mind this is before you could get any of these games digitally. Halo 2 was an original Xbox game, right?
Right.
You had no choice but to get it physically. I went at 14 years of age to the midnight launch event. My mother was kind enough to take me because they would not sell me the game because I was under 17. In this small town in Canada that I live in, there aren't too many people, but there was enough for maybe 100 people in line at this local EB Games, and that could have been people from out of town too who couldn't get their own pre-order or whatnot. But yeah, like I remember specifically I got there early. I was like third in line. I waited for like an hour. I only had to wait for an hour because people weren't being too crazy. But what we would do, what we ended up doing is we one by one we would go in, and they had copies of the game set up on the kiosks so that we could give it a test if we wanted. They give us a game, and then we go home, and I personally stayed up until about 3 a.m, getting to the Scarab level, that first Scarab portion of Halo 2, when that happened. Alex, you probably remember that more recently, the first Scarab in Halo 2.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I recall that being like the first time that I had ever sort of done that sort of thing where I'd gone out of my way to do something about a video game because I was just so super hyped for it. The next one that I went to was Halo 3, which was 3 years later, 2007. I was 17 at the time, and I could buy it myself, Mom. Thank you very much. This one I specifically remember mostly because it was probably the same group of people, the same like 100 or so people lining up, but like a cop drove through the parking lot and rolled down his window. What's everybody doing here? And you just hear one guy from like the other end of the line, Halo 3! Right? And everybody started cheering and clapping and getting all hyped and excited, and we were all pumped to play some Halo. But yeah, I also participated in like I think it was like Gears of War 3. That was that one was raining, if I remember correctly, so that one wasn't as fun. I also went to the while I'm thinking of it, I know this is kind of long-winded here. I also went to the Xbox 360 midnight launch that they did, and I specifically remember getting home with that. Like I went from EB Games, went home, so this would have been 2005. Sorry, not home. Picked up my friend. My friend came over to my place, helped me open the box. I went and put like gloves on to take my Xbox 360. Was it Pro? No.
Whichever one had the hard drive.
What, the one with the hard drive and the silver disc tray?
Yeah, because that matters.
Yeah, it absolutely dude, changeable faceplates. Get with the program. Those were amazing.
As someone who didn't buy a 360 until like 2012, 2013, it really didn't matter to me. I didn't though. Okay. I actually have a really...
Think about the wood grain.
Okay.
Wood grain faceplate.
I have a really interesting story to tell around this, actually, and it does lead into a launch hype moment for me, at least. So
yeah, I'm done talking for right now.
Okay. So the year that the 360 released, I really wanted the next great thing, which since the Xbox was coming out first, it was the Xbox. And then a revolution happened. That revolution was the Nintendo Wii.
You had a Wii at launch?
So I got so hype around the news cycle, around the launch of the Nintendo Wii. I told my parents I didn't want the Xbox anymore. My dad, without me knowing, had already gone to a Toys R Us and purchased a launch Xbox 360, which he then returned so that we could go out on November 19th. I think it was November 19th. I could be mistaken. To wait in line outside of our local Best Buy at like 5:30 in the morning. They didn't do a midnight thing, so it was like 5:30 a.m. We get to Best Buy. We're like 66th in line. Figure, all right, we're good. We're good. 60 consoles.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's Nintendo's limited stock for you.
Yeah.
See, I'm a huge apologist when it comes to the Wii, but I feel like that whole situation was very awkward and unfortunate.
This story does have a happy ending.
Ooh.
Oh.
My mother, who knew how excited I was for the Wii, woke up around 8 on the same day, because she's not a crazy person like I am, and went to our local Zellers. For those who don't know,
rest in
Zellers is a
It's a name
defunct
I haven't
Canadian
heard in-
brand that was overtaken by Target when they came into Canada, and is now mostly either vacant storefronts, Lowe's, or Walmart. I
I
think.
think I saw somewhere that there was
Ottawa
like
or
one
something, I
Zellers
believe.
left somewhere.
Yeah, I think there's a
Yeah.
Zellers distribution center left somewhere, but it doesn't matter. I miss Zellers. I miss the restaurant, even though it was terrible. I miss everything about the Zellers shopping experience. I digress. My mom gets there. She's 11th in line. Sounds great, right? 10 consoles.
You said this was a happy ending.
The guy, she talked to everybody in line in front of her, just hoping someone would swap with her because maybe they were buying 2 or something along those lines. The guy ahead of her was buying 2 just because he wanted to be able to resell one because the Wii was so limited in stock when it first launched. When she told this sob story about her kid that wanted the Wii at launch to play Zelda, he must have felt sorry for her or something and gave her his spot in line. So my mom
was
comes
gonna
home
say-
with a copy of Zelda Twilight Princess, a nunchuck to go with that sweet, sweet Wiimote, and that beautiful white porcelain, even though it's not porcelain, it's really cheaply made plastic, beautiful box that I enjoyed the crap out of and put probably 15 or 16 hours into Zelda that same day. Did the guy who gave up his spot in line know that this was for a, what would I have been, like 14-year-old, 15-year-old at the time? No. Did he think it was probably for someone that was like 8 or 9 because it's a Nintendo thing? Yeah. Did I care? Not in the slightest. I had that Wii day one and I was hype.
Well, he was gonna scalp it, and like what Monarchy says in the chat, fuck scalpers, so he deserved
Oh,
it.
well,
I
he
was
didn't
gonna
deserve
say,
it.
like-
That was the nicest experience I've ever had with a scalper. Thank you, anonymous person at Zellers at Shoppers World who gave up his spot to my mother to get me that Wii. I will never forget that day. You are a good person regardless of whether or not you scalp or not. Every other scalper can go die in a fire.
Scalpers should be taken by firing squad.
Sob story or not, like, that is the right thing to do in that situation.
Agreed.
Also, I want to mention, after Zellers went under as a chain in 2013, the Hudson's Bay Company operated some Zellers branded locations as liquidations outfits for the Bay, but apparently the last of these stores closed in January of 2020. So
Rest in peace.
Someone,
just a few months
someone
ago.
has created a parody Zellers Twitter account, and it's a lovely follow. They followed me back, and that made my day that happened. So everyone should go check out Zellers on Twitter.
So Zellers died the same year that we got coronavirus. Coincidence? I think not.
Greg Miller got what he wanted in the Snyder Cut of Justice League, and everyone else
But
has
at
paid
what
the price
cost?
for it.
This feels like the right thing.
Follow the money.
I don't have a midnight launch story just because I for a long while was barely even sentient to be able to go to a midnight launch for any game that I cared about before Digital Revolution.
You are
I'm
too young.
gonna interrupt you right there because I remember you did a stream on this very channel waiting for a certain game to release.
I did the Doom Eternal stream, but that's
Yeah.
like that's so
That
like kind
kinda
of that's
counts.
lame to wait up for your timer to just like activate. And also,
But that's the new
with
norm,
Doom-
right? Like that is
Yeah,
our new
it's-
midnight launch, right?
It is unfortunate that like just it's such a visceral experience. The only time I've had something even remotely close to it was when Grand Theft Auto 5 was coming out. Grand Theft Auto 5, I didn't get it at midnight, but I did get it like I went to EB Games literally when it opened. It came out on a Tuesday. I didn't go to school. I got the game. Like I was so like my excitement for the game was palpable. Like I was so ready for Grand Theft Auto 5. It was the first Grand Theft Auto game that I was going to be able to play because I just didn't get 4. I was also probably too young for 4. But I was just so ready for 5. And when I got it, it just before even like waiting, because there was a line outside the EB Games because that game was huge, and this was still at a time where at least the Xbox 360 couldn't do games on release for download. The PlayStation 3, I believe, could, but the Xbox 360 still wasn't capable of that. And so I was so excited. I was watching, there was a launch trailer that, and the character trailers, I was watching them over and over again in line on my phone. I was so excited. And when I got it, I immediately, I got to Trevor the same day, which I believe is that's a good 10 hours into the game by the time that you get to him. And so that's probably the time that, because I'm always excited for the next game, but this was different, and it was the only time that I've had a real experience like that, because unfortunately I just have missed my opportunity to do a lot of midnight launches, and it's kind of a dead thing now.
That's what I was kind of going to get into, is do we feel like this is a lost art in a sense, right?
Yeah.
This is not a thing that happens anymore. I never really did the midnight launch thing. Like I said, the closest I got was that Wii. Every other console I've gotten on launch day since then, which is the PS4 and the Switch. But the PS4, I walked into Best Buy with my pre-order and picked up a box behind the customer service counter at 2 p.m. after school. And the Switch, I sat by my window at while I was still living with my parents, just ignoring work, and hopefully no one from work is watching, ignoring work and just looking out the window all day waiting for Canada Post to deliver that Amazon box. So
Yeah.
it's not a community event anymore, which is kind of a shame.
Yeah, AJ, when you were talking about the Halo 2 and Halo 3 launches, those were cultural phenomenons
They
when they
were
were
amazing.
happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, seeing footage of the New York City launch of Halo 3 and Bill Gates being him giving the first copy. I don't know if it was New York City, but there was him giving the first copy of Halo 3 to the first person in line. You're never going to get an experience like that again, or it's just never going to have the same impact. And I feel it is just, though the digital has made everything more convenient, I feel it is just a missed opportunity, because just Halo 3 was kind of it was on top of the world, and it was just such a cool thing. Unfortunately, I'm kind of looking at it from it just from an outsider perspective, but it just seemed like it was just the coolest thing that could have been happening at that time.
Yeah, absolutely. Few things compare to those kind of did you play Pokemon Go at launch when that happened? 2016? Yes. Yeah.
No, that was a hype moment.
That was a hype moment for sure. Game launches back in the day were almost equally hyped in that it's all anybody was talking about. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, I remember with Pokemon Go, just to get a little, I mean, it's a similar thing of, it wasn't available in Canada right away, and so people had a lot of they had a lot of workarounds to get it, whether they had a US iTunes account. That's what I did as well, and you could tell the people who were playing it as well. Pokemon Go was something special, and it made the horrible hellfire of 2016 an actual decent year.
Yeah, I think we'll get into talking about video game phenomena at some point, and that's definitely one that comes up.
Absolutely.
I'm gyrating.
Nathan, you're
you're
just
dancing
I was
there.
gonna say, you're just
So
hanging out.
grooving.
My last midnight launch was GTA 5. Is it that bad? Is my voice that bad right now?
It I can understand you at least.
That was 7 years ago.
That was my last midnight launch.
That hurt my
I've
ears.
pretty much been digital since the Vita, so it's been a while. But in the chat, I believe it was Monarchy who said, "What's your biggest midnight disappointment?" And I've brought some props. This is my
No, I think it was actually on air with Jer that brought
on
that
air
up.
with Jer.
Or
My apologies.
Yeah, on air with Jer. Yeah.
So
This is the
what are you holding
hardcover
up?
guide for Final Fantasy 13, which I was super excited about. I
Wow.
picked it up at midnight. I couldn't wait to play it. I did not enjoy Final Fantasy 12. It looked like they were fixing the issues, and they created a whole bunch of brand new issues.
Huh. I've got two copies of the Hyrule Historia.
So
in a similar vein. I was a little disappointed with the Historia itself when that came out, but
I just want to say the next few episodes of the show are going to be interesting because I'm getting very close to completing the platinum for Final Fantasy 13, and my preliminary thought right now are that I think Final Fantasy 13, if anything, is slightly underrated.
I'd like to discuss that more.
But well, like I said, I have not completed all the challenges yet in the game. We will have a fuller discussion on
My
that
other
later.
memorable midnight launch, and this was not a disappointment, was God of War 3. And I got the special edition Pandora's box.
Oh, okay.
I waited in line with that.
Nice.
I think the Final Fantasy one was more hype because the people at EB were dressed up as Final Fantasy characters. One of them dressed up as Riku. But God of War 3, that provided. That's a great game. So anyways, those are my midnight hypes. PlayStation 5, first day. We got to figure that out.
Hell yeah, I'm gonna do it too. I'm so excited.
I mean, if we want to, like, we're it seems like we're all moving away from midnight launch. If we want to organize a midnight launch meetup at a specific store on a specific day,
Oh man,
I will put those pre-orders in
Yeah.
for us. I'm fine if we all say we're doing the EB Games at Young and Dundas or something. I'm down.
That all depends on how the state of the world is when come November.
Yeah, we might not be able to gather by November. That's a good call.
Yeah, it might be an Amazon thing.
Maybe we could do a mass unboxing.
Honestly,
But
Like a live Twitch unboxing together.
Walmart,
Yeah.
Walmart, not Amazon. I've had issues with Amazon pre-orders for the last few months. I've totally abandoned Amazon in terms of physical pre-orders. For me, it's Walmart, Best Buy, or bust. And by bust, I mean I go digital. And with the world on fire
Yeah,
right now, I'm going digital for almost everything.
Walmart was actually pretty good about. I had ordered Final Fantasy VII Remake and actually got it a day early from Walmart, so I'm pretty good with them. That was my only time having ordered from them so far, but I think that's a very good spot to move to. But I guess kind of getting back to the main sort of conversation, I just wanted to bring up one sort of more point about
Go for
my general disappointment with how the midnight launch and even like the day one launch of games are if you're a physical collector pleb like me. So another Rockstar game, Red Dead Redemption 2, was another one of those games that my excitement was palpable and I was so excited about it. And when I got the game, I got it like as soon as EB Games was open. They opened up, I believe, I can't remember if it was an hour early or half an hour early, but either way, they just like they opened the store up early specifically for Red Dead Redemption 2 because it was a big hype moment. And as soon as I got the game, I got the special edition. I brought it home. I opened it up, put the first disc in my PS4, and had to wait about 2 hours for it to install. And that's kind of another big thing of like
Oh my God,
you
yeah.
are so it's like the whole like idea of midnight launches, even if you are getting the physical copies and even if EB Games is still doing midnight launches, there's almost no point because you're gonna have to download a giant ass patch because that's just the way that games are developed now. That again, it's just another one of those. It's another nail in the coffin of midnight launches that just
If
means
if only there were a platform available to us where you could just start the game, no need for patches. If
Okay,
only
but the
some
problem-
company were thinking.
We're
of-
not talking about the
this,
shortcomings of
that
Stadia
issue.
tonight, goddammit.
that also wouldn't have mattered if
Uh-huh.
I had downloaded the game on my PS4 and when it unlocked. Like this is just a purely physical media problem. So Stadia wouldn't be the fix in either regard. And also I want to play my games when they actually come out, not 2 years after.
I kind of hope we
That's a fair point.
I kind of hope we can get to a point where for for game launches, companies will realize, oh, you can't play our game until you download a 150 gigabyte patch and install the disc. Here, we'll send out the disc in a week early, but it'll lock behind the same time gate that digital does. Why not?
Yeah, why not?
Why not?
Yeah. Cozy, you haven't spoken very much.
I have not, unfortunately. I will say, you know, all of the technical difficulties that we've had over the past 2 hours have kind of thrown me for a loop, left me a bit winded.
That's fair.
But nonetheless, I have a little bit to talk about with regards to the subject at hand. So here's the thing. I've not really been to a lot of midnight launch parties or launch parties in general. The only launch party that really sticks out to me that I've been to is I was at a launch party in, I think it was 2016 or 2015, that was organized for the release of one of the latter 3DS Pokemon games. So it must have been, I'm assuming it must have been Sun and Moon 2, Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, either that or Sword and Shield. In any case, I was at a party that was organized by a group at the university I was attending at the time, and it was pretty great because some of them worked at the local EB Games, and basically they were able to get a lot of like codes that normally EB Games gives out sparingly that allow you to get like rare and exclusive and in some cases shiny Pokemon. So by the end of the night, I remember walking out with like 5 codes that get me like a legendary shiny Pokemon that normally is impossible to get otherwise. I would say though, like in terms of just like general like games I was really hyped for ahead of launch, no other game I think in the history of the medium has come as close as a little game called Super Smash Bros. Brawl.
Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah, that game, I know a lot of people in the competitive Smash community have mixed feelings on it, but that game to this day will remain the single most hyped game I have ever had the chance to experience in my life. The daily blog, Super Smash Bros. Dojo, that updated every weekday with some sort of new piece of artwork or piece of information or final smash or anything at all about the game, was such a delight to experience.
Did anyone else here stay up until the site updated in Japan time just to see what that day's update was? I did that almost every weekend when that game was coming out.
That I didn't quite do that, but I just remember being so hyped that they got Snake and Sonic, and it was like, wow! I was so pumped for that.
Yeah, this game was truly something special, and funnily enough, when I actually played it for the very first time, like a day after it finally released here in North America, I actually remember kind of sitting there and being like, oh, okay. Like, reality and expectations kind of settled in, and I'm like, I kind of feel like expectations sort of got ahead of me in a weird way. And then, weirdly enough, after that, like, my opinion of the game tremendously improved, and I came to really, really love it. So,
Before you,
I don't know if there's a lesson to be learned there, other than, I guess, just be mindful of your expectations.
I do want to say one thing before we get on to anyone else's stories, and that, Cozy, you brought up Pokemon, and I have a really good Pokemon launch story as well. So, back on the DS, Nintendo would launch a lot of their first-party games on Saturdays for some weird reason. I don't know why, but they did. And when Pokemon X and Y released, I was working a weekend job while going through university. So I was working from 8 to 4, I think it was, or something like that. So my buddy and I that I was working with camped out at a Walmart at like 6 a.m. just to be able to get this game before we went to work. We were able to get there. There was no one there before us, obviously, because we're crazy people. And then there was just this mad dash to the electronics section when they actually opened the doors, and none of the employees understood why until we got there and wanted Pokemon. We were thankfully able to get it, but the mad dash was not great because, I'm not the slenderest or most athletic individual.
Slender.
You're like the X-Men Juggernaut, though, right?
Once you get me going, I ain't stopping if it comes to Pokemon.
Yeah.
And that was a game that I was so looking forward to. The news cycle around X and Y had me so hyped for that game. I knew going into it, like, I'm one who goes into Pokemon games and knows literally everything before I even open it up. I'm bad about spoilers for Pokemon games. So I knew in X and Y, if you got to a point just before the first gym, you'd get a choice of one of the Kanto starters on top of your starter in that game. My friend and I, once we got our work done, it was a maintenance job, so essentially you'd come in, you'd have some daily tasks, then you'd have time to kill unless there was a flood or something was on fire or someone shit in an elevator. It never got that.
That sounds like a personal experience.
It never got that. No, that was just me talking off the cuff. I do, however, remember it was New Year's Day, and I was tasked with cleaning one of the parking lobbies at this condo. And I go down there to mop up. And there was just a ridiculous amount of vomit in a pile in the corner of this lobby, and I don't know why or how a single person could humanly vomit this much. It was literally like the size of a manhole cover, the amount of vomit. It was like
Yikes.
piled up. It was weird. It was like 4 or 5 people just gathered in one spot and all projectile vomited at the same time into the same place. Disgusting. Wow. I'll get back to my Pokemon story. So we got to work with this game. We got our tasks done, and I knew we could end up with both having all 6 available starters. So the 3... Oh, crap. What the heck was the region?
Kalos.
Kalos. Thank you, Cozy. The 3 Kalos starters, Fennekin, Chespin, and...
Poplio.
And, no.
No, that
Froakie.
was 7.
Froakie.
Froakie, there we go.
Yeah.
As well as Charmander, Bulbasaur, Squirtle, the 3 Kanto starters. So by the time that day finished, we just sat there restarting the game over and over again, trading all the Pokemon into one game, restarting the other one, trading them all back, so we could end up with all 6 of these starters that are available before the first gym. And I just wiped through that entire game with those 6 Pokemon in my party, and it was phenomenal. And I will never forget that day, that launch of Pokemon X and Y, and playing it at work when I should have been working, or at least studying.
I actually, I'm just reminded of a when I got Pokemon X. I didn't go into it with the spoilers that you went into it with, and so the Kanto starters were a huge surprise for me, and like that was like a very big mid-game hype moment for me, for sure.
I actually have a story about a Pokemon game, though my
it.
experience. Yeah, so Pokemon Platinum, when that had come out, it came out after I had a DS, and I played through both Diamond and Pearl before I knew that they were kind of the same game. I also didn't really know that Pokemon Platinum was going to be the same game, but I was still excited for a new Pokemon. And this was actually the first game that I bought with my own money when it came out. It was, I don't even remember what year. I think it was 2007? Maybe, I don't remember. It might have been 2008.
It might have been 2008. I'll check it for you. You can keep going.
I think Diamond and Pearl came out in 7. So Platinum I think came out in 2008, and it was $40 Canadian. So it was actually like affordable for me.
September 13th, 2008.
Yes. Okay. Apparently Monarchy's saying that it released in March 2009.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was looking at the Japanese release date. September 13th, 2008 in Japan, March 22nd, 2009 in North America, May 14th, 2009 in Australia, and May 22nd, 2009 in Europe.
Okay. Regardless, so it was $40. It was very affordable for me, being 10. And so
Wow.
I remember
Wow.
that I know.
Why?
I like saying just how old I am, because I know it makes at least Mitch and Nathan, for our audio listeners, Nathan is flipping me off.
I'm not too upset. I was in the 11th grade when that game came out.
Yeah,
I was still in high school.
It's
at
funny.
least.
It's funny to hear you guys recoil in fear.
Oh my god.
No, hitting
because-
30 in a couple years is what's going to have me recoil.
Yeah.
30 ain't too bad.
I'll be sure to continuously remind you how young I am. Regardless, I remember getting dropped off at the EB Games, and because it was a Pokemon game, I was able to go pick up the game myself. I don't know, I have no idea if this store is anywhere else in the world, but at least in Toronto, there's this frozen foods store called M&M's Meat Shop.
Oh, they're all over the country.
I think it's Canadian.
Okay, I wasn't-
Carmen.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
All right, is M&M's just Canadian?
M&M's?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, they're American.
Okay.
It's American too?
Smarties.
No, the food store, not the candy.
Oh, it's just Canadian.
Canadian. Yeah. You heard it from Carmen.
Okay. Either way, they sell like frozen foods that you can get.
Really good
But
frozen
regardless,
food, to be
there's-
honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really high quality for what it is. Regardless, though, there's one directly by the EB Games right by my house, and every like 4 or 5 months, especially like during like warmer seasons, they do like barbecues, where they just like they sell like burgers for like a couple of bucks. each, and they have like this really nice like mixed drink that are like this powdered drink that they do, and it's a fundraiser event that they do, and they were doing it on the day Pokemon Platinum released, and so I specifically remember like tying it to that and getting a really nice burger at the same time, and it was just overall I remember more about the experience of getting Pokemon Platinum than actually playing it.
Is that a thing
'Cause
about
it was
EB
just
Games being near M&M's? Because I talked earlier about the Zellers at Shoppers World that I got my Wii from. In that same plaza is an EB Games that is literally like 2 doors down from an M&M's meat shop. Is that a thing?
I don't think that's a thing, but I remember I used to go to a microplay that was 2 doors down from a M&M meat shop.
Weird.
I don't know if you guys remember microplay. That
Yeah.
was
I don't think so.
I
Yeah,
remember
we talked
Microplay.
about it a couple of episodes ago. Remember when I talked
Yeah.
about the older guy?
Oh,
Right.
yes, I remember.
right.
I just want to say before we wrap things up,
Yeah.
as an essential service providing food for Canadians, M&M Food Market is still currently keeping its stores open. So a shout out to everybody who's currently working at M&M Food Market.
Yeah.
Yes.
And to all the essential workers out there who are still keeping everything running. Absolutely. We're thinking of you.
Except for the employees at Discord,
Well, I mean, they got it back up and running.
I guess.
They realized how essential this podcast is to the lives of the people watching and listening. So, anyway, it sounds like we're all tapped out on hype for this week.
I mean, I got one more. I got one more thing.
yeah.
It's not about future, or
Yep.
it's not about current or past. It's about future.
Let's hear
and
it.
it's something to kind of go back to what we were talking about earlier. The PlayStation 5. I'm actually really excited about it in the sense that this is going to be the first console I ever own at launch. Every single
God,
one.
you're young.
It's not even that. It's just I didn't own a PlayStation 4 when it came out. The closest I had was the Switch because I got it like 9 months after it came out. Whenever it was in December, but not for Christmas.
It came out
It
in
was,
March, yeah.
Yeah, so it was about 9 months after it came out, and so I've always owned it like a little bit after it's come out, and so I'm really excited to actually be able to have a console at launch.
If there's
so-
games worth playing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
So-
buy it regardless.
I'm excited to hold that controller.
I'm excited about it regardless. Just it's gonna be cool owning a console at launch.
I'm excited to know more about it. Like I can't be excited yet because I don't know what there is to be excited about. If we get to a point where we're all hyped for it, like I said earlier, I'm totally down for coordinating at a midnight launch.
Horizon
I would be down for
Dawn
that.
02 will be coming out. for it.
Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
No, Ratchet and Clank before Spider-Man.
Sure. He said Ratchet and Clank over Spider-Man.
You're wrong, but whatever.
All right. Unless anybody else has any other last-minute hype moments, no, we're all good. All right.
Yeah, I think we're all good.
I think that's gonna do it for my first hosted episode of Press YYZ.
Yay!
Yeah.
I hope it wasn't too painful for everybody. I know we had a lot of technical hiccups today, but
Yeah.
you know what?
Uh,
That comes with me hosting things. That's what you get.
So-
That's your punishment. Yeah.
I was gonna joke and I was gonna say that, like, if you're watching this on Twitch, you just watch the longest episode of Press YYZ, and if you're listening on iTunes, you're listening to the shortest episode.
I don't think it was the longest, to be
No,
honest.
I don't think
We've
it's the
gone
longest.
It
longer.
definitely isn't. The Final Fantasy VII
No,
spoiler
I meant
cast
that.
is.
I meant that more metaphorically.
Okay. It feels like it's been 4 hours, but thankfully it
Exactly.
hasn't.
It feels like it's been 4 hours.
Cozy aged about 12 years while we recorded this show.
I think part of that is the time of year where we're starting the podcast with the sun up, and then it's going down middle of the podcast. So
Everyone's coming
that could
inside
have
using
something
the
to do with
internet?
it. Yeah.
Speaking of you hosting the show, we haven't actually talked about what we're going to do next week. I had an idea, and I just want to run it by y'all, and if we want to go with it, then I'll host this next week. 5x5
go.
Sure.
best licensed video games.
Okay, down.
That
I'm
sounds
in.
good
Alright.
to me.
All right.
That's your show next week.
We're gonna have to talk and define specifically what
licensed
licensed
video
We
video
will
game is.
we
before
will
we get to
determine we will determine the criteria offline so Cozy doesn't bring nude Punch Out again.
I mean, you could make an argument that Punch-Out is kind of a licensed game because you have
AJ,
Mike
wap it
Tyson
up,
front and
please.
center.
Please.
And so,
AJ,
by
please
extension,
wrap this
so
up.
Alrighty, all right. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Especially if you're here live, and thanks for listening on the podcast services. I was your host, AJ Fraser. You can find me all over the internet at Times Hero. I was joined tonight by Mr. Mitch George.
You can find me
Where can people
everywhere.
find you?
You can find me everywhere at Mr. Mitch George. Also, you can find this show everywhere at Press YYZ, Twitch, Twitter. If you do drop a follow on either of those platforms, we appreciate you greatly, and you are the best people in the world. You are my favorite people, and I love you.
And you typically run and manage those accounts, so thank you for that.
You guys are
Alex,
welcome to hop in. Like, I'm happy to give you guys responsibility.
That sounds like too much
I'll pass on
responsibility.
that. I'll
Yeah.
just post shit posts.
Yeah. Alex, where can we find you?
If you want to hear about all my fantasizing about a haircut that I'm not allowed to have right now, you can follow me on Twitter at blatantly_Alex and on Instagram where I post my shit posts about what I'm working on in no context on blatantly Alex.
Dogs are allowed to go to groomers. Could you not just go to a dog groomer for a haircut?
That would have to admit that I'm a furry and I'm not there yet.
Yet.
Yeah, one
You're
day.
not there yet. This gets bad
One-
enough. You have
one
to
cat's
you have
four
to-
times at this point.
At this point, you have to decide between coming out as a furry or just shaving your head on stream.
Good luck with
Yeah.
that.
We'll find out.
Nathan, where can people find you?
_NMAC on Twitter. Follow me at ps4blog.net. Please check out my review for Gorn. It would mean a lot to me.
Do me a favor and type that into the Twitch chat so everybody can see it, because that was unintelligible for the Twitch viewers. And Cozy, thank you so much for keeping it all together tonight. How and where can people find you?
Why? You can find me on Twitter at Alex Kozina, and you can also find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/CozyBearLive, where I will be going live in just a few minutes to play some more Apex Legends Season 5, a bit more of Telltale's Batman the Enemy Within, and God of War 2018.
And with that, I just want to say thank you to everybody for watching live. Thank you to everybody for listening to the podcast. And most of all, thanks for playing.
Bye.
Adios.
Bye.